Okay. Hello, my name's Versace, and I'm here today to talk to you about lighting. A surprise, I know, but we're going to talk about the 3-point lighting. We're going to talk about high contrast and the steps in that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about backlighting, and that's about it, which I'm sure you know, it's your assignment. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, before we get into demonstrating the lighting, I want to talk about the setup. I have 2 light boxes and an LED light. I'm privileged to have these in my household, so I will be using them. However, both of the light boxes will be used for the key light and the fill light. However, the one that will be used for the fill light will be pointed towards the wall, so it will diffuse it as to not have the same brightness as the key light, or else it would sort of defeat the purpose of having a fill light and just oversaturate myself. As for the LED light, it will be used as the backlight, and with limited spacing, it will be closer towards me, so it might be brighter. But that's it. Again, let's get into it. So, to begin, we're going to talk about the 3-point studio lighting. Right now, I'm demonstrating you the key light, which is the first light in the 3 different lightings in this system. The key light is the main principal illuminator. It will illuminate your subject in all of their beauty. And it is the one that is placed right in front of your subject and the most closest to the camera. As for more the placement, it will be at a 45-degree angle above the subject and a bit to the side. That is because you want to illuminate and have the light shining down instead of coming above, as that's probably going to cast a lot more shadows than you would like. Now, we have our fill light on, which is the second light in this system, and its purpose is to fill in those shadows and to reduce that contrast. And you achieve this by having your fill light be typically further back than your key light and on the opposite side of it, as it will produce a softer light and not be as intense, or else you're just going to have this very saturated look to you and extremely bright, and that's typically not the look you are probably looking for when you are using this kind of setup. Now, last of all, we have our backlight, which is the third light and the 3-point studio lighting. And the purpose of your backlight is to give your subject a type of highlight, which helps them pop out of their background. Now, typically, your backlight would be a bit further back and a bit higher, but in this case, it's right behind me. I won't show it because it will blind my camera. However, that's essentially the backlight. And this has been the 3-point studio lighting. On to high contrast. High contrast is kind of what it sounds like. It values having a range of values within your image, composition, video, and whatnot. And to achieve this, you will typically have a type of contrast ratio. This can range from a 2-to-1 ratio, which is essentially a contrast that has very minimal shadow and generally more even. While if you have an 8-to-1 ratio, your contrast will be very high, where your shadow will be very prominent in comparison to your brightest side. Now, to achieve this, you're going to want to delve into stops, where stops are essentially when you double or half the exposure of your image. So for example, if you're doing a full stop, then you are going to capture the image at twice the light as you were doing previously. Now, to achieve changing your stops, you are rather going to change your aperture, your ISO, or your shutter speed. But in any case, this is to say you are trying to change the amount of light that you're taking in. And when you do that, you can rather decrease the contrast or increase the contrast. And will attempt to demonstrate this. Now, to demonstrate what your stops might look like, though I do not have the proper equipment to truly do that, and an explanation, the difference between stops will typically look like if you're on a lower stops, then your image will look a bit more docile, while if you're on higher contrast levels or higher stops, you will see more of the shadows and how dynamic your range of values are. But to kind of demonstrate it, right now I have a light box hitting me. If I want to go up a stop right now, I'd put a light on me so I can increase my shadows. Again, this is not how you typically do it. You would, again, use your aperture, shutter speed, or changing your ISO. But right now, typically what you would want is that create more of that shadow. While I take it away, the lighting is a bit more even. Now if we want to go down, again, this is not how you do it. When I block my lighting, there's less contrast in my face. Even though it's darker now, which is typically not what would happen, my values are far more even with each other rather than having a far more brighter value and a very contrast darker value. Now that is about it for high contrast, and we will go into backlighting. Now finally, we have backlighting. And backlighting is achieved when your light source is behind your subject. Now, this can be done with artificial light, as shown with my computer, or it can be done with natural light. Now, if you're going to do it with natural light, typically you'd want to work in early mornings or when the sun is setting, so you're not in a daylight where everything is typically even. You want lighting that will create some kind of intensity or some type of shadow. As backlighting, that's what you're trying to achieve. Now, it does not have to be as dark as this. This is just my preference. I like the dramatics, and as it creates this almost hot, like halo-ish kind of feel to me, as it outlines my body but covers most of her shadows, my front. However, again, it does not have to be this dark, and it does not have to be this intense. Essentially, backlighting is there to help you focus on details and create depth to your image. And again, this can be done with different lightings. It could be more further back, it could be closer. It all depends on how you position the camera and how the lighting intensity is. And yeah, that's about it.